Okay, we are live. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Virginia 21's Hangouts for Higher Education. My name is Tom Kramer. I'm the Executive Director of Virginia 21, and we're thrilled to be here. Joined today, we've got Brendan Wynn, the chapter president at University of Virginia, and we're also pleased today to be joined by the featured guest for our topic today, Jeff Trammell. Now, our topic today is an issue that's very close to a lot of students that we work with at Virginia 21, and we wanted to take the time today to explore it more, figure out why it's so important and what some of the barriers to action are now. And that issue is partnership benefits for LGBT faculty and staff. Currently, only couples in heterosexual relationships that work for colleges are eligible for healthcare benefits, and that's forcing a lot of faculty to not pick Virginia. But what we want to do today is talk to somebody that's been basically a trailblazer on the issue in Virginia. Jeff, we're thrilled for you to be with us. Just so our viewers know, Jeff is a former rector of the College of William & Mary. He's the first openly gay rector or chair of a board of trustees for a major American university. So Jeff, thanks so much for being with us. And if you would, spend some time talking about the issue and some of your work to try to get this done in Virginia.
Tom, and Brendan, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I should say right out of the box that my friend Marge Conley was the openly lesbian rector at Longwood just before I became the openly gay rector at William & Mary. So even though Longwood may not be quite as large, it's still important. And we do some trailblazing in Virginia, although we're frustrated on other fronts at the same time. And Marge, by the way, was just appointed by Governor McAuliffe to the State Council of Higher Education in Virginia, so we will have an openly gay person in that position, which is wonderful. Partner benefits are really problematic for us in Virginia and have been for some time. As many of you know, the Marshall-Newman provision was put in the Constitution by the voters, which basically said that you could not have same-sex marriage or incidents thereof in Virginia, and that was interpreted to mean that the universities could not offer partner benefits for same-sex couples. When I went on the board in 2005, appointed by Governor Warner on the William & Mary board, I started talking about this, and I found that many people, particularly those who come from business, from Fortune 500 companies, knew about this, were already ahead of us, because as most of you know, the major companies in the country have been doing this for some time. Everybody from CarMax and Dominion and Norfolk Southern in Virginia to all the private universities in Virginia are doing it as well. So it was long overdue. And long story short is that we have tried working to find a way around the constitutional provision and which we got moving when Tim Kaine was governor, but it was published, the regulation was published in the Virginia Register, and then when Ken Cuccinelli came in as Attorney General, he killed it at that point. So we find ourselves in a situation today where we still do not have partner benefits for same-sex couples in Virginia. But the landscape's changed around us with the ruling by Judge Wright Allen in Norfolk and the fact that we are looking at marriage now pending before the Fourth Circuit in Richmond. So against that backdrop, we find ourselves in a situation where Virginia 21 and many of us who care deeply about higher education in Virginia want this issue to move forward. And it's not partisan. It's really an issue of fairness, and most importantly, it's an issue of good business practices. We lose faculty and staff all the time to other universities that offer these partner benefits. At William & Mary, we had the opportunity to have a great law librarian from Penn, but she would not come because her partner could not get benefits. That was a number of years ago. We've had a number of examples at UVA and Tech, VCU, Mason, and all the other universities and colleges in the state that have lost staff and faculty. So we really do need to address this issue.
And I appreciate that, and I want to pick up on one thing that you said relative to Virginia 21. I mean, I think everybody that knows us knows that we have a very nonpartisan background. We're very good. We've got relationships on both sides of the aisle. And one of the things that I'm struck with on this issue, and others that are involved, that we're involved with higher ed, we did a statewide student survey that polled about 5,000 students pretty equally from college to college, all the public universities, and we found that 80% of students favor this. About 12% don't know, and only that small single-digit remainder is actually against this. And as most people know, students are not a homogenous group politically, and it's not a partisan issue for us as a generation. So I just wanted to point that out, even though it does seem that the opposition is very partisan. Brendan, I want to go to you for a second because I know that you've got some work happening at UVA, and so many issues. It's easy to say that you've got people that don't come to the state because of it, and you can turn it into an economic issue. But Brendan, I think you've had some experience with the personal aspect of this issue that makes it very important. Like, can you talk about that real quick?
Yeah. So one of the things that a lot of people have said ever since this court ruling that came out of Norfolk is that pretty soon this probably isn't going to be an issue for people, and everybody's waiting out the courts. And in the meantime, there are faculty and staff working at institutions who can't provide benefits to their partners who need those benefits for pre-existing medical conditions. And so there are people in the state of Virginia who aren't getting insurance that they could otherwise possibly be able to get through these benefits. And so that's a real problem that we've seen here. I know that it's going to be a problem at other institutions across the Commonwealth. And so I wonder what we can do in the meantime as students to try to push this along. I think a lot of people are going to be inclined to wait, and there's a lot of reason not to.
Jeff, that's a great question for you. I mean, as someone that's been leading the way, I mean, I definitely want students to take a more prominent role to assist with these efforts. Like, what do you think?
I think Brendan's spot on. The reality is that we don't know how the court's going to rule. We all know where we think history is going on this issue, where we hope it's going, but it's very presumptuous for us to sit back and say, oh well, we don't have to do anything because the courts will take care of this for us. That doesn't reflect the type of leadership that I know Virginia 21, or I like to think that we in higher education stand for. Right, and in our community too, the LGBT community, of which I'm a member, and I know that students feel the same way, as you pointed out generally, Tom. We have to stand up for what's right, what's smart, what's fair, and that means on this issue, I think Brendan's right. I think we go ahead and express our opinion. The faculty assemblies or faculty senates at many of the universities in the state passed resolutions on this issue in the last few months, just in this last this last school year. They didn't wait. They went ahead and made it clear once again that this is critical for their members, their faculty members, and I think we need to do the same. And that involves communicating, with Richmond, with the policymakers, letting them know that we think this is an important issue. It's not a partisan issue. It is an issue of the welfare, the well-being of our universities, and that it's an issue of fairness. And it has broad public support.
Yeah, and I agree with all of that, Jeff. And one question that I hear when you talk about fairness, there's always the question of, this is obviously the moral thing to do, because I've talked to Brendan and several students that can talk about stories where the loved ones of some of the faculty and staff at some of our colleges just have real life-threatening illness, and they're unable to afford to have their partners taken care of, and sophisticated actually get them health care that they can afford, that can make some of their conditions manageable. That's sort of like the moral side, but can you talk for a second about what is the economic side to this? Because I think we talk about why it's important to have competitively paid faculty at our universities. Isn't this the same thing?
Yeah, well, look, we both like to do the right thing and be competitive, right? I mean, I'm doing the right thing. I always, of course, when I'm out traveling around the country, speaking at universities, I'm quick to point out that Mr. Jefferson, of which UVA and William and Mary like to think we played some part, being everyone, and all the universities in the Commonwealth as well, all the others as well. The idea of being created equal and giving rise to the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution is something that we hold very dear in Virginia. And of all places, we're the ones who should be fighting this fight. But on the practical side, you only have to look at people like David Hansen. David Hansen was the chief operating officer of VCU. He was recruited from Emory, very highly respected guy, and tried desperately to get partner benefits instituted with private funding at VCU, was stymied by then Attorney General Cuccinelli, and finally just left the Commonwealth this past year, moving to Massachusetts, saying, "I've had enough." And there are quite a few. There are a lot more David Hansons out there than we know. I had a professor from UVA call me who was leaving for a marriage equality state with her partner within the last few months. And it's real, and it happens. And even for those who stay and don't move, as you point out, there are those who have partners with health issues that aren't being covered, or they're paying out of their own pocket for very expensive individual policies. So we're losing faculty, we're losing staff. We have marriage equality states very close to us, where you can be in Maryland or be in D.C. or any of the states up the East Coast and have marriage equality. So when a university there comes knocking, it's very tempting to many of these faculty members. And the other thing you hear corporate executives say is that young faculty members today and staff, heterosexual, take this issue as a metaphor for openness, for creativity, for respect for diversity. And it hurts, I think, the Commonwealth generally when people don't see us in that light.
And I couldn't agree more with that. I think you're right. I mean, as a young person in Virginia, this is something that, I'm sort of offended that we don't offer to people, because it's just not right at all. Brendan, do you have any more questions for Jeff?
I do have a sort of related question. We've talked about the importance of this and how it's a pretty easy argument to make in terms of economics and good business sense for Virginia. So this is a huge question, but why hasn't it happened in Virginia yet?
Yeah, well, it hasn't happened yet because of the process of the election cycle, where Tim Kaine's term came to an end and that regulation died, which would have created a way of getting there, dealing with our constitutional provision. And then, of course, only recently have we had a pro-LGBT marriage equality governor, while the courts have been dealing with the marriage issue. So it is against that backdrop and the fact that the governor's new in office that that has not been addressed yet. I think it's appropriate to express opinions to the governor. He would welcome those, I'm sure. We know he is pro-LGBT. He's good on the issues, and I think he would probably be receptive to people letting him know how important this is to him.
And that's exactly what our plan is as we move forward. We know his administration has been quite busy with certainly the recent budget issues, and also other issues like the Medicaid expansion in his first General Assembly session. So I think that this is the type of issue that is not going to get addressed without appropriate public pressure. And so what we will do in Virginia 21 is urge our lawmakers and urge our students to communicate with their lawmakers, and certainly the governor and the attorney general and the appropriate folks that can move this issue forward, to get involved. So anybody that's watching this video, we'd want to invite you to go to www.virginia21.org, sign up for our mailing list, tell us this issue is important to you, and we'll let you know when the time is right to get involved. There are a lot of people like Brendan that represent or that lead chapters of Virginia 21 at public universities that are going to be helping us lead this fight from the student side. So the bottom line is we need your help. People around the Commonwealth need your help, and that's what we're here for. So with that, Jeff, do you have any closing thoughts, you or Brendan?
Well, I'd just like to thank you and Brendan and point out that I travel quite a bit in different circles in higher education. I'm a member of the Association of Governing Boards of Universities, and another state where the students have the voice and impact they do in Virginia. And I think it's because of Virginia 21 and what all of you do And I think that's really important. So I encourage you not only on this issue, but generally to keep doing what you're doing. It's very important.
Thank you, Jeff. And Brendan, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to thank you both for both of your efforts on this, and especially to Mr. Trammell for all the work that you've done. I feel old, but I'm only 24 years old, and I know that for years you've been doing a lot of work on this, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you both. That's about a wrap for us. For our viewers, again, you can go to our website at www.virginia21.org and sign up for our mailing list. You can follow us on Twitter at Virginia21 or our Facebook page at facebook.com/va21.takeaction. So that's about a wrap. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.